You ever catch yourself thinking about Jiu Jitsu at some of the strangest times? At work, in the shower, thinking about that last roll that you lost or won. You just can't seem to get it out of your head. There's just something about this art that just grabs you hard. And it's not just the moves or the techniques, it's the struggle. That shared physical pain creates connection between people faster than comfort ever could. Because that shared struggle triggers oxytocin, the same hormone released in deep emotional bonds. And then there's the moment where you land that perfect technique. Even if you hit it only once, your brain floods with dopamine. Not because you dominated, but because you made progress. And that's what keeps you chasing the next piece. And what keeps you coming back again and again and again. Add in flow states, and you've got something dangerously close to addiction. But it's a beautiful one, isn't it? And that's what we're talking about today. The hidden science behind our obsession with this thing called Jiu Jitsu. Welcome to the Alchemy of Struggle, baby. You ever notice how fast friendships form on the mats? It doesn't come from small talk or just hanging out. It's that shared pressure, that shared struggle. Research shows that shared adversity forges deeper bonds than shared pleasure. The hardships you face together, getting smashed, out of breath, problem solving under stress. It wires your brain to attach and trust faster. A study done in 2019 measured levels of oxytocin in martial artists while they trained. After training, oxytocin levels rose across the board. But there's one particular detail that leaps off of the pages for us who train Jiu Jitsu. When they compared traditional striking with grappling created significantly higher spikes in oxytocin than striking. You can see the quote from the abstract here on the screen. That means grappling doesn't just toughen you up. It literally increases your capacity for social bonding with those who you train with. Because you have to consider the nature of Jiu Jitsu and grappling in general. It's a full body tactile experience. Your chest against theirs. You're feeling their breath, their tension, and their timing. This kind of contact really matters neurologically. It's primal. It triggers trust-building systems that are rooted in survival. And we've heard it many times before. Jiu Jitsu feels like more than just a workout. Well, now you know why. And shared physical struggle increases the intensity of emotional memories. The people you go to war with, literally and figuratively, your brain locks them in. It happens in combat and it happens in combat sports. Jiu Jitsu taps into this wiring. That's why even just a few months of rolling with someone can feel more personal than years of small talk with your coworkers. And that's why when you leave class, something just kind of lingers. You're thinking about that last roll, not just because of technique, but because your body remembers what your brain cannot fully explain. You just struggled through something together, and part of you is bonded in that moment. And this is why you can't stop thinking about Jiu Jitsu. There's this reward system kicking in. Every time you solve a problem under pressure, you get rewarded. But you don't get rewarded with praise, and not with medals, but with dopamine. It's the same feedback loop you get from playing video games, gambling, and even social media. But here, on these mats, it's tied to real physical, emotional, and psychological growth. You survived, you improved, your brain takes note and wants more. Add in flow states, and this addiction is unstoppable. That feeling when you just disappear in the roll and you just become part of the mat and time seems to stop, you're in flow, baby. And neural imaging shows that during these flow states, the prefrontal cortex quiets down. What does that mean? Far less self-criticism. Dopamine and endorphins rise. Time perception distorts, and you lose track of minutes. Jiu Jitsu provides all of the conditions necessary for flow. High challenge, immediate feedback, and complete focus. Now add in just a bit of unpredictability and the loop amplifies. You don't always win, and you don't always improve. And that's the key. The brain releases more dopamine when the rewards are uncertain. Just like when you see people at the same slot machine for hours on end, because they just know that hit is the very next pull. And just like when you just missed that sweep and it haunts you for days, so you can't wait to get back and try it again. So Jiu-Jitsu trains your brain to chase effort, not outcomes. That means the process itself becomes the drug. You don't need to win. You just need to see a glimmer of improvement, a possibility of victory. And that keeps you showing up, even when progress is slow or even invisible to others. The grind itself becomes its own reward. And that's the sign of a deeply embedded habit loop. And here's the bonus. The longer you stay at it, the deeper it wires in. So you're not addicted in the sense that people mean when they talk about harmful behaviors. You've just been lucky enough to find something that hits every motivational trigger in the human brain. Purpose, progress, pressure, presence, and people. And that's the reason you can't quit. You're not just into jiu-jitsu. You're wired for it. And it isn't a phase, but a loop built from identity, habit, emotional refuge, and meaning. And each of these keeps pulling you back in. It gets to the point where jiu-jitsu isn't just what you do, but it's who you are. And the brain loves this because identity-based behaviors are very sticky. This is why even after you take time off, something in you still whispers, man, I gotta get back on those mats. So you're no longer training to prove something. You're training to remember who you are. Every part of your training, the warm-up, the tap, even the drive to class itself, becomes a sort of neural groove. This groove gets deeper and deeper with time, and your nervous system starts to crave that rhythm over and over again. You start to feel off when you miss a class. And then it becomes your emotional vault. Jiu-jitsu becomes the one place where you really let go. Full breath, full focus, full contact. And this understanding, it makes the struggle make a little more sense. Most struggles in life feel completely random, but jiu-jitsu is different. The suffering actually builds something. That shift rewires your brain to associate pain with purpose. So now, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard, it feels like it's worth it. And I know you guys are all pumped up, grabbing your gis, and you're ready to rush over to the mats. But I need to bring you back down to earth for a minute, because I would be remiss if I did not discuss the hidden risks of this obsession. We all know the saying of too much of a good thing. That same dopamine that motivates you blinds you. You start chasing the next roll, the next breakthrough, even when your body says to stop. One of the things you have to be extremely careful with is over-attachment. If jiu-jitsu becomes the only place where you feel this strength, this centeredness, and this connectedness, what happens when you can't train? And that can feel like the death of your identity. So you need to know who you are when you're not on the mats. So that obsession tricks you into thinking that more is better. But jiu-jitsu is a lifelong pursuit, not a 6-month binge. So if you completely burn out your nervous system, the art you love becomes the source of your suffering. So how do we balance this out? The solution is maturity over mania. Longevity in this art means learning when to go all in and when to pull back without guilt. So the goal isn't to escape obsession, but to refine it. Let the fire fuel you, not consume you. And if you haven't seen part 1 of this discussion, be sure you go back and have a look. It'll be linked at the end of this video. And if you have a question or a topic that you'd like me to cover, send a message to the email address that's on the screen. And as always, I want to thank the subscribers and the commenters for helping me level up this content. But remember, there are others who need this message. So let's help them find it. Like, share, and subscribe. Keep up the good fight, and remember to stay safe on those mats. Peace.